Hey everyone, it's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, and interviews. Today is Friday. It's September 29th. Happy Friday. Hope you're doing awesome. And in this video, we're going to be discussing the impending shutdown and fears mounting with regards to the U.S. government shutdown potentially looming. We are in crunch time right now. We've got about 48 hours before a potential government shutdown, and this could really start to spark even more FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt into the markets. And as we know, the markets do not like uncertainty. So we're going to be talking about the implications of this. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on what to expect in the days, weeks, months ahead in terms of price action. And we'll take a look at the broader market and what this means for us as retail investors and how we can prepare. But before we get to it, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and you'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Also, make sure to give Pow Group a follow on X, which is previously Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. Again, going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward, so the handle for that is @GroupPow. Also, make sure to check out powmerch.ca for all of the merchandise here. I do have a sale going on till the end of the month, 10% off your order if you use POW G420. So as a thank you, I really do appreciate, had over 20 orders so far. I really do appreciate from the bottom of my heart all the support. Love each and every one of you who have supported me along this journey. But taking a look at the fear and greed index, so we are very close to hitting extreme fear. And as we know, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy, right? You want to take that contrarian mindset. And most people, when it comes to investing in the stock market, they usually get the direction wrong, right? If it weren't the case, then we would all be millionaires, right? But it's just not the way that the market is designed. Usually when people feel good about something, that's generally the time to sell. And generally when people are panicking and feel bad about their investment, that's usually when it's time to buy. So when could we potentially see a bottom in the market? Well, in my opinion, we could reach that extreme fear territory, and that could potentially mark a bottom, as well as the S&P 500 hitting weekly oversold. We're nowhere near it at the moment, and we could still see an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross here on our exponential moving averages after confirming a weekly downtrend. So again, what could we potentially expect if the government shutdown does occur? Obviously, none of us have crystal balls, and we can just prepare for up, down, or sideways, right? Markets can do one of three things. They can go up, they can go sideways, or they can go down. So as long as we have a plan for all of those scenarios, right? Those who fail to plan to fail. So I'll give you, in my opinion, what we could potentially be looking out for. Do I think that the government is going to shut down? I'm leading on the side of no. I think they'll, maybe in the final hour, in the home stretch, they'll reach a deal, and then they'll avoid the government shutdown. But at the moment, we are starting monthly consolidation, and we're in a weekly downtrend. So we could still see an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross, as I mentioned. At this point, I would say it's a 50-50 chance that we're going to see the government shut down. If it does, then we're more than likely going to see a lot of selling pressure and fears picking up in the market. And what I'd be looking for as a potential bottom, so if you're saying, let's say you're someone who's saying, well, how can we tell if the market is bottoming out? And if the government shutdown does occur, what are some of the things that we can look for a potential bottom being set in the broader market? So first things first, I would be looking for extreme fear here on the fear and greed index as the number one thing to look for. Number two, I'd be looking for close to weekly oversold here on the S&P 500. And then number three, I'd be looking for the DXY, the US dollar currency index, to be reaching weekly overbought territory. We are currently at 64.88, and 70 and above is considered overbought and overvalued. And as you can see, we basically have no support all the way down to $99 on the DXY, on the US dollar currency index. So at this time, we could easily see weekly overbought territory as a potential top marker here on the DXY. And then once we hit weekly overbought, I think that's when we'll start to see momentum shift back to the bulls, where we'll start to potentially form a bottom here on the S&P 500 leading into the end of the year. But we basically have no support. We have a small support level here at 102.93 on the DXY, but it was barely any support at all. It was just slight brief weekly consolidation, ended up being a bull flag and seeing follow through. And then, like I said, the fact that we're very close to overbought, that could be our indication that we're reaching a top. And then once DXY starts to pull back, I expect a decent pullback here because of the fact that we have no support. So watch for that as a potential top. And then on the S&P 500, again, it's entirely possible we don't get weekly oversold because we're still very, very far away from seeing it, but we could get very, very close to it. And that's what I'll be looking out for. But again, we don't know for sure. But at the moment, we're starting monthly consolidation. We're holding EMA 12 here on the monthly time frame, and we're still in a monthly uptrend. That's the most important factor here on the S&P 500. We do have support at 376.47. So as long as that holds, we're still in a monthly uptrend, just scouting a monthly higher low. And as we know, Congress has still been banned, has yet to be banned from owning stocks. And it is a monthly bull flag as well. And we are targeting 521. So there's a lot going on here. There was an inverse head and shoulders on the monthly time frame. I've been using the .com fractal as a way to kind of use that as a benchmark and a gauge and a barometer as to how low this correction could go. But because of the fact that we had the Fed printing trillions of dollars, I expected that we were more than likely going to deviate from that fractal, which is exactly the case. And I mentioned, I think it was on Wednesday's live stream, not sure if I don't know if I made that one public or not, but I mentioned to PAL Group private members that on the daily time frame we were daily oversold, and that likely toward the end of the week we could see the daily oversold bounce occur, and that's exactly what happened the last 2 days. But at the moment it is a daily bear flag, and if we do confirm that daily bear flag, we're targeting about 408 here on the S&P 500. And then zooming out to the weekly time frame, in terms of weekly support, we have no weekly support nearby until 400, and that's a nice round psychological level as well. So one potential could be an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross, and then we potentially go down and test that 400, maybe a slight flush of 400, and then we would be getting very close to weekly oversold. But again, based on how far we are away, it may not print that exact 30 or below RSI and oversold. So it could get very close, but in my opinion, the main thing to be watching for is going to be overbought territory on the DXY, and we can get extended. That's generally what happens whenever we're waiting, when everybody and their dog is waiting for a massive correction. We can get pretty extended in either direction, and I would expect this to be the upside because it's in a bull momentum and trajectory right now, right? So as long as we're in this bullish trajectory, then like I said, I think we could potentially overshoot overbought and get into extreme territories. But again, the fact that Congress still hasn't been banned from owning stocks yet, I've been saying for a while now that historically October is not that great of a month for stocks, and I expected that sometime between the second week of October is where we would start to see some selling pressure. We would more than likely see a bottom sometime in the second or third week of October, and then into end of October and into November is where I think we're going to set monthly higher lows, and then we'll potentially continue the momentum to the upside. And then, like I said, Congress still being banned from owning stocks, realistically, that could happen over the next few months. And then, like I said, we could see our blow off top and final rally into the end of the year. And then into 2024 is where I think we're going to start to enter a bear market. So if we take a look at the .com fractal, again, we're deviating from it. There's a lot going on here. I'll just see if I can remove a couple things here, some of these fib levels. But again, there's a lot going on here. But ultimately, I expected us to deviate from this fractal because of the trillions of dollars that are being printed and artificially propping up this market. But as you can see, back in the .com days, which we're using this as a comparison, the blue bars here and this fractal is from the .com boom and bust. And then as you can see in 1996, price was still increasing, but the RSI had peaked. And then we had hidden bearish RSI divergence with higher highs on the price action, lower highs, lower lows on the RSI. 4 years later, the price peaked, and then we went to monthly oversold. So similar thing here in 2018, the RSI peaked. 4 years later, the price peaked, and then we're heading to monthly oversold. We have this hidden bearish RSI divergence. And then, like I said, because of the trillions of dollars, how manipulated the market is, Fed's banning themselves from owning stocks here. I think that the next top is going to be when Congress and lawmakers ban themselves from owning stocks. So again, I think we could see one more final upside and potential new all-time highs into the end of the year. But again, I think there's going to be a little bit more short-term pain ahead, and this government shutdown could really fuel that narrative. And then, like I said, potentially in the next few weeks, we could set a temporary bottom, a monthly higher low, and then the monthly higher low will be set once we confirm a weekly uptrend. So we're in a weekly downtrend. We still need to start a weekly bounce and get back into a weekly uptrend. And that would look something like this, where we start the high, higher low, and higher high. So we would need the higher low and the higher high to be back in a weekly uptrend, which we're nowhere near doing so. So again, I think it could be at least a few weeks before we confirm that weekly uptrend and then set our monthly higher lows. And then, like I said, I'm really banking on the fact that Congress is going to ban themselves. And when could that potentially happen? I'm thinking some point over the next few months. I would say over the next 3 to 6 months max, we could see Congress being banned from owning stocks. There's a lot of bills going through Congress right now, a lot of chatter on why this should not be allowed. And realistically, a monkey could figure that out, could tell you that it's a bad idea for people that are creating laws. They shouldn't be able to buy stocks, right? It's literally the biggest conflict of interest that I could think of, and it's just insider trading at the highest level. So that's what I'll be looking out for. Watch for a weekly uptrend to be confirmed to mark a potential monthly higher low, and then really be paying attention to DXY. That's going to be the most important chart to be watching for. Weekly overbought could mark the top, and then once we start weekly consolidation on the DXY, that'll be the first time really in 70 days, in 10 weeks. So what does monthly consolidation, or what does consolidation mean? If it's on the monthly time frame, we're losing the low of the previous candle. If it's on the weekly time frame, which it is right now, we're losing the low of the previous weekly candle. So the low of this week was 105.51. If we lose that level next week, then that means that weekly consolidation will begin on the DXY, and we can more than likely expect a very sizable pullback based on the lack of support. But if we continue to bust to higher highs next week, then we'll be looking at the low of next week. If it holds and we don't start weekly consolidation next week, we will be looking at next week's low the following week. And like I said, once we start weekly consolidation, that's likely going to mark a top on the DXY, and that'll be bullish for stocks and crypto going into the end of the year. But like I said, I'm really banking on the fact that Congress is going to ban themselves. It just makes the most sense. And then once Congress is banned, once the Federal Reserve has banned themselves, which they've already done in the peak of the last bull market, right, then there's no incentive for them to keep this market up, right? So that's what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, I wish I could, tell you if the government was going to shut down, if it's going to, or if it's not going to. But again, I don't know. So we can look at the charts. There's no technical damage at the moment. We're still in monthly uptrends, which is the most important thing. We're just starting monthly consolidation, which we knew was likely inevitable and was due, and is just healthy at this point. So there's no major red flags. Try not to buy too much into the media and the narrative. Even if the government does shut down, we're still in monthly uptrends. So we're still a long ways away before we see any major long-term chart damage. But again, leading into 2024, I think that's when we're going to enter a potential blow off top, one final rally, and then it'll be that sell in May and go away. And that's when I think, leading into April, May in 2024 is when we'll start to see selling pressure really start to ramp up, and we could potentially enter a multi-year bear market. And I think we could see a 1929 type, depressionary style market correction. One of the biggest market crashes in history, I think, could be looming. And again, I've done a video on this. It's called How I'm Preparing for the Biggest Market Crash, one of the biggest market crashes in history. If you haven't seen that video, I highly encourage you to check that out. But going to end it there, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do you think the government's going to shut down? Is this what the talking heads in the media are going to use, the narrative they're going to push to give us further monthly consolidation as DXY heads to overbought territory? Always love hearing from you. And going to end it there, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend ahead. It's Rod with Pal Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. And I'll be doing some videos over the weekend, and definitely we'll be covering this next week. But fingers crossed the government doesn't shut down, but we have to be prepared for all scenarios. All right, have a great weekend. We'll see you on the next video.